Hello and welcome back. In today's video, I am going to be making a crap ton of pico de gallo, and then we are going to water bath can it for long-term storage. In front of me, I have my ingredients. This morning I went to the farmer's market and I got 50 pounds of tomatoes. So I have plenty to work with. The recipe that I'm using called for 24 to 28 Roma tomatoes. I have 26 in here. Here I have 3 bell peppers and 4 jalapenos. These are really big, really strong jalapenos, so I think I might end up only using 2 of them. All of this has already been washed. I also have cilantro, onions, and garlic. Now take all this, cut it all up, mix it with some spices, and we'll have pico de gallo. So we're gonna get started with peeling and dicing the onions. Once that's done, I'm going to peel and clove out my garlic. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but I'm peeling the cloves off the garlic. Next, I'm going to dice up all of the tomatoes. Make sure to cut off both butts and any parts of the tomato that is not good. Once that's done, I'm going to move on to my peppers. Starting with the bell peppers, make sure to save the seeds and dice these up real small. And I will be doing the same thing for the jalapenos. And finally, I'm going to chop up the cilantro. Now we have all of our ingredients diced, cut small, and in their individual containers, and we're about to start mixing them all here into the tomato bowl. I guess it doesn't matter what we add first. What do you want to add first? You want to start putting stuff in the bowl? Do our peppers first?
At the same time?
Okay, sure. Go. Onions. There you go. Garlic. Cilantro. Now we're going to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. 1, 2, 3. I don't think it is though. I'm going to stop at 3 because it wants me to put a lot of salt in there. 3/4 of a cup of salt.
Wow.
That's a crazy amount of salt. I think I need a bigger spoon. Will you get me a big wooden spoon, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call this good. I will pop the lid on it. And now this is going to go in the fridge overnight and we will can it up tomorrow. Ooh, too heavy for the top. Oh, crap. It is the next day. Here is my pico de gallo in this bowl. It has been sitting for, I don't know, 18 hours, something. The next step is to take this and pour it in my pot here. We're going to heat this up to about 165 degrees. I'm going to take my emulsion blender and blend it a little bit because it's chunkier than I realized that it was. So yes, it's like a pico de gallo, but we're going to go for kind of like a little more salsa-like so it stays on the chip when we're dipping. In the oven, I have my jars sitting at 225 degrees. They're sanitizing, getting ready to go in the water bath canner, which is just another big pot full of water. So I'm going to pour this in now. Probably didn't need this big of a pot. I'm going to turn the stove on to a low heat. Okay, I actually don't need a pot that big. What I'm going to do is get a smaller pot, put the salsa in that, pico, whatever, and then use the bigger pot for my next project, which is going to be making tomato paste. Here in this bowl I have 25 pounds of Roma tomatoes, pretty big Roma tomatoes. I labeled them so that I knew what this was for, tomato paste. And this is still not all of the tomatoes. It's dark over here, the lights aren't on, but this is the rest of the tomatoes that I have, also some bell peppers and jalapenos. I haven't weighed this yet. It's about half of what is in that bowl, so let's assume about 20 pounds. Yeah. So I'm going to switch my pico over to a smaller pot. I'm going to go ahead and get all of these tomatoes washed and cored and cut off any bad parts of this skin. And then I'm just going to take the tomatoes, put them in the pot, and heat them up. I'm not going to add any water or anything. I'm just going to allow the juices to naturally flow. Once it reaches a, hot enough temperature and all of the tomatoes are soft and mushy, I am then going to turn it off the heat, let it cool down a little bit, and then put it in my tomato sieve. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to separate off all of the skins and the seeds and then take that sauce, put it back in my pot, and it's going to simmer for a while until it reduces down into tomato paste. It is the next day and I am almost done canning up all of these tomatoes. I only had 4 jars that did not properly seal, so they are in the canner now, right behind me. So I figured that while I'm waiting on these last 4 jars to finish the sealing and canning process, I want to do a cost breakdown of what I spent, what I canned up, and if I were to go to the store, what the retail price for what I did would cost. So we're going to do a little bit of math today. All right, I moved over to the whiteboard because I figured that this is just going to be the easiest way to do this. I'm going to pull you in real close while I talk and write, and we will go over the cost breakdown. What I have already written, cost breakdown. What I spent, along with I went ahead and wrote everything that I bought. Tomatoes, jalapenos, onions, garlic, bell peppers. What's here in blue is things that I had on hand that I did not have to buy. Lemon juice, canning salt, jars, lids, rings, the canner. So this cost me nothing. And then here on the right, this is going to be the retail equivalent. We're going to go for the median value, so not the cheapest, not the most expensive item. And I went ahead and already looked that up. I haven't written down the cost just yet. We're going to do that together. So let's start over here, what I spent. For 2 30 boxes of Roma tomatoes, they were $20 a piece. I spent $40. For 1.5 pounds of jalapenos, I spent $7. I overpaid. For 3 pounds of onions, I spent $3. For 2 heads of garlic, they were 79 cents a piece, so let's say $2.20. I know that's not right. We'll just say $2. For the 4 bell peppers, they were 69 cents a piece. Let's call that $4. I'm rounding up, rounded down on this one. It'll even out. Now, if we add all of this together, that's 47, 50, 56. I spent $56 in total. I didn't use all of the bell peppers, or I only used one of the garlics, and I didn't use all of the onions or the jalapenos. I did use all the tomatoes. Now for the retail equivalent. I canned up 6 jars of salsa. They are pint-sized jars, which is about 16 ounces. And the store equivalent for a 16-ounce median priced salsa is $6. So 6 times 6, 36. Tomato sauce. For a quart, which is about 32 ounces, the store equivalent biggest is a 29 ounce, and the median price for that is $2.69. And I canned 7 quart jars. For the pint jars, I canned 3 of those at about 16 ounces. The store equivalent is 15 ounces for the median price of $1.79. So if we were to take 7 and multiply it by $2.69, we would get $18.83. And if we take 3 and multiply it by $1.79, we get $5.37. And if we take $18.83 and add $5.37, we get $24.20. And now for the tomato paste. A half pint is about 8 ounces. The store equivalent is 6 ounces. And I canned up 15 half pint jars. And for the 6 ounce equivalent, it would be $1.39. For the pint, I canned 5 pint jars, and a pint is 16 ounces. The store equivalent is 12 ounces, and retail, that is $1.97. Now, if we take 15 and multiply it by $1.39, we would get $20.85. And if we take 5 and multiply it by $1.97, we would get $9.85. And if we add $20.85 plus $9.85, we would get $30.70. And now, if we take the tomato paste, the tomato sauce, and the salsa and add those together, we would get a grand total of $90.90. So to recap, I spent $56 to get the equivalent of $90.90, let's call it $91, of tomato products from the store. So I think that I would say that that is money well spent. We do not use a whole lot of tomato products typically. There are a few things that I do make that require a lot of tomato sauce and also tomato paste. So I made sure to do the bulk of the tomatoes in those things. We also go through salsa, so I made the 6 jars. I really thought that I was going to get 12, but I only got the 6, so I'm not exactly happy about that, but that's okay. Now, I felt like it was important to do a cost breakdown because I did not grow any of the things that I canned up yesterday and today. I have had a serious deer problem and I cannot keep them out of my garden, and therefore I cannot keep my tomatoes growing long enough for me to get a harvest out of them. And one of my biggest goals this year is to put away as much food for this year as I possibly can. Without getting doomy and gloomy about it, I follow the trends. I know what's going on, and I do know that this fall, winter, and into spring, there's going to be a series of food shortages, and the food that is there is going to be crazy expensive. So therefore, I must put away as much food as I can. Now, as far as the recipes that I used for canning up my tomato sauce, tomato paste, and salsa, I am not going to be linking any recipes because they are not mine. I believe that I got these recipes out of my books. I have spent the last few days looking online and looking through the books, and today I can't seem to remember where I got these recipes from. It is easy enough to find recipes for canning tomatoes, and I am hoping that I will be able to keep the stinking deer out of my garden because I do have more tomatoes growing from seed. I picked some determinate varieties, and I'm just really hoping that I'll be able to get a harvest out of them before the frost comes. I think our first frost date is November 15th this year, so there still is plenty of time to grow things. Now, this might not have been the most fun or educational or inspiring type of video, but I thought that I would bring you into the kitchen because I don't often turn the camera on when I come into the kitchen. It is just a whole nother thing trying to record and pick up the angles while also cooking or canning or preserving food or just trying to do things, especially in my tiny little kitchen that is lit very badly. I'm going to try to do this more often. I think maybe my last video or the video before, I was like, I'm gonna post every week. we're probably not doing that. I'll post when I can. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video here before I keep rambling. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. If you're not already, consider subscribing. Like I said, I'm not posting weekly, but I will post when I can. Until I actually have, you know, things to talk about and stuff to show, there's not really a need to turn the camera on every time I do something. Now, before I do go, I have been working on the garden all year. It is coming along very, very slowly due to my limitations. But it is coming along, and I am going to be compiling all of that footage into one video. That is likely going to be a winter thing, and it's very likely you will see the garden before I post the video of building the garden. All right, I'm done rambling now. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.